Israeli ground assault on Deir al-Balah. Latest updates and humanitarian crisis. The Middle East is witnessing a significant escalation as the Israeli military initiates a ground offensive in the central Gaza city of Deir al-Balah. This move comes amid growing international concern and criticism. The international community speaks out, but Israel stands firm. Israel has firmly rejected a joint statement from the United Kingdom and 24 other nations condemning the horrifying killings of Gazans trying to access food from Israeli aid stations. These countries have labeled Israel's limited aid distribution as dangerous and are calling for the immediate lifting of all restrictions on aid entering Gaza. In response, an Israeli foreign ministry spokesperson dismissed the statement as disconnected from reality and argued that it sends the wrong message to Hamas. This is the part most people miss. The tension between humanitarian concerns and security measures is at the heart of this debate. And both sides have valid points that are often overlooked. A humanitarian crisis unfolding before our eyes. The situation in Gaza is dire, with reports of widespread hunger and malnutrition reaching catastrophic levels. A Gaza mother shared her harrowing experience, describing how she often returns home empty-handed, unable to provide food for her children. She said, "As a working woman, hunger exhausts me more than work itself. I return each day empty-handed, with nothing to feed my children. Bread is beyond reach, and tears are no longer enough to calm our children. Hunger is not temporary. It lives with us." Ala Abu Samra, ActionAid's emergency response manager in Gaza, painted a grim picture, noting that mothers are resorting to feeding their babies sugar water instead of formula, and children are visibly malnourished. "People are collapsing in the streets from hunger," she said. "All food is either missing or unaffordable. Last night, the bombing was heavy, but hunger is the real weapon. The international community is complicit. Where are the aid trucks? Where are the sanctions that were promised? Instead of delivering relief, they've delivered a death sentence. Gaza is a nightmare, and this must end." Political reactions and calls for peace. Sir Keir Starmer, the leader of the UK Labour Party, faced tough questions about Gaza during a parliamentary committee meeting. When asked about recognizing Palestine as a state, Starmer stated that this has been his government's long-standing policy and that they are committed to working towards a two-state solution. He acknowledged that the situation is intolerable and emphasized the UK's role in bringing about a peaceful resolution. Palestinian Prime Minister Mohammed Mustafa described the Israeli-managed aid sites in Gaza as death traps, citing that over 995 Palestinians have been killed while waiting for aid. This comes after the UK and 25 other countries condemned Israel's aid delivery model as unacceptable. A royal voice of dissent. The King of Belgium, King Philippe, broke with tradition to speak out against Israel's bombing of Gaza, calling it a disgrace to all of humanity. In a rare public statement, he urged for an immediate ceasefire and denounced the humanitarian abuses in Gaza, where innocent people are dying of hunger and being killed by bombs while trapped in their enclaves. "The current situation has gone on for far too long. It is a disgrace to all of humanity," he said. Visual evidence of the exodus. Photographs show Palestinians fleeing Deir al-Balah in large numbers as they seek to escape the Israeli military action. The IDF has ordered the evacuation of the densely populated area, which includes many displaced families living in tents. The Medical Aid for Palestinians charity has suspended shipments to the city due to the Israeli ground assault. International pressure mounts for ceasefire. The UK and 24 other countries have jointly called for an immediate end to the war in Gaza, describing the Israeli government's aid delivery model as dangerous, fuels instability, and deprives Gazans of human dignity. Their statement, signed by the foreign ministers of 25 countries, emphasizes the need for a negotiated ceasefire to bring the hostages held by Hamas back home. The grim toll of war. The Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza reported that over 59,000 people have been killed since the war began on October 7, 2023. While the ministry does not distinguish between civilian and Hamas fighter casualties, earlier reports from Gaza medics indicated that at least 3 Palestinians were killed and several wounded by Israeli tank shelling that struck 3 mosques and 8 houses in Deir al-Balah. Understanding the conflict in Syria's south. The conflict between the Bedouin armed tribes and the Druze militia in Syria's southern district of Sweda has resulted in hundreds of deaths. The Bedouins, traditionally nomadic Arabic-speaking tribes, have lived in the Al-Badia Desert, which spans much of southern and eastern Syria, including the Sweda province. Bedouin tribes, who follow Sunni Islam, have a long history of clashes with the Druze sect. The Druze, a religious sect with roots in Ismaili Shurism, make up about half of the roughly 1 million Druze worldwide, with the majority living in Syria, Lebanon, and Israel, including the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. Multiple Druze militias have existed for years, initially formed to protect their communities against threats like ISIS and drug smugglers. They have been hesitant to disarm, targeting medical personnel. The Gaza Health Ministry, run by Hamas, reported that Dr. Marwan al-Hams, the director of Abu Yusuf al-Najjar Hospital in southern Gaza and a spokesperson for the health ministry, has been abducted by Israeli special forces. Described as one of the most prominent humanitarian and medical voices, his abduction is seen as a direct attack on the voice of the sick, the hungry, and the suffering in Gaza. The health ministry holds Israel fully responsible for Dr. al-Hams's safety and demands his immediate and unconditional release. What do you think? The situation in Gaza is complex and emotionally charged. Do you believe that the international community is doing enough to address the humanitarian crisis? Or do you think more needs to be done? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Israeli tanks enter Gaza's Deir al-Balah. Concerns for hostages. Imagine being trapped in a war zone, with no access to basic necessities like food and medicine, and the constant threat of violence looming over you. This is the harsh reality for thousands of Palestinians in Gaza, where the conflict between Israel and Hamas has been raging for over 21 months. But here's where it gets even more devastating. Israeli tanks have now pushed into the southern and eastern districts of Deir al-Balah, an area packed with displaced Palestinians, sparking concerns that hostages may be held there. The Israeli military's move into Deir al-Balah marks the first time they have entered this area, and it's a development that has sent shockwaves throughout the region. According to Israeli sources, the army believes that hostages may be held in this area, which has been a stronghold of the militant group Hamas. But what's even more alarming is that the area is home to hundreds of Palestinians who have been displaced during the war, and the influx of tanks has only added to their misery. The health ministry has reported that at least 3 Palestinians have been killed and several others wounded in tank shelling in the area, with local medics describing the scene as chaotic. But that's not all. In the nearby town of Khan Yunis, an Israeli airstrike killed at least 5 people, including a husband, wife, and their 2 children, who were taking shelter in a tent. The Gaza Health Ministry has reported that at least 130 Palestinians have been killed and over 1,000 wounded by Israeli gunfire and military strikes across the territory in the past 24 hours, making it one of the deadliest days in recent weeks. And this is the part that most people miss. The humanitarian crisis in Gaza is worsening by the day, with health officials warning of mass deaths due to hunger, which has already killed at least 19 people since Saturday. The Hamas-run territory's health ministry has said that hospitals are running out of fuel, food aid, and medicine, risking a halt to vital operations. But here's the controversy. Israel has accused Hamas of using hospitals for military purposes, an accusation the group denies. The Israeli military has raided and attacked hospitals across Gaza during the war, and the latest incident has sparked outrage. An Israeli undercover unit detained the head of Gaza's field hospitals, Marwan al-Hams, in a raid that killed a local journalist and wounded another outside a field medical facility run by the International Committee of the Red Cross. The ICRC has expressed concern over the safety and security of the field hospital, and the incident has raised questions about the Israeli military's tactics. But what's even more striking is that the incursion into Deir al-Balah and the growing number of deaths appear to be complicating efforts to secure a ceasefire between Hamas and Israel, with talks mediated by Qatar and Egypt, and backed by the U.S. A Hamas official has said that the militant group is angered by the mounting death toll and hunger crisis, and that this could affect the talks on a 60-day truce and hostage deal. The UN Refugee Agency, UNRWA, has warned of starvation in Gaza, with food prices soaring, and has called for the siege to be lifted to allow aid in safely and at scale. The agency has said that it has enough food stockpiled in warehouses to feed the entire population for over 3 months, but it's being prevented from reaching those who need it most. The health ministry has reported that at least 67 people were killed by Israeli fire as they waited for UN aid trucks to enter Gaza, and at least 36 aid seekers were killed a day earlier. Israel's military has said that its troops had fired warning shots to remove what it said was an immediate threat, but the incident has raised questions about the Israeli military's actions. The war began when Hamas-led militants stormed into Israel on October 7, 2023, killing 1,200 people and taking 251 hostages back to Gaza, according to Israeli tallies. The Israeli military campaign against Hamas in Gaza has since killed over 59,000 Palestinians, according to health officials, displaced almost the entire population, and caused a humanitarian crisis. So, what do you think? Should Israel be doing more to protect civilians in Gaza, or is the militant group Hamas to blame for the humanitarian crisis? Share your thoughts in the comments below.